y'all, so today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. In the month of May, I read 4 graphic novels, 3 novels, and 2 manga, which is 9 things total, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and just jump in the wrap-up. The first 2 things that I read in the month of May were volumes 5 and 6 of the Death Note Black Edition manga series by Tsugumi Ohba. And I did a full review of the entirety of the Death Note series, so I won't talk too much about each of them, but I ended up giving volume 5 8.5 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, and I gave volume 6 9.5 stars out of 10, which translates to 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the series. If I had to give the series a rating out of 5, I would give it a full 5 out of 5 stars. It was really awesome. Again, if you want to hear more of my thoughts, I will leave a link down in the description to the video where I review the entire series and the anime. And that review is spoiler-free, so if you have not yet read the series, no worries. I will not spoil anything from the series or from the anime. The next book that I read in the month of May was Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book in his Reckoners trilogy. Unlike most of Brandon Sanderson's books, this one is specifically for the young adult audience. This trilogy is set in a dystopian world where there are superheroes, but they're not exactly what you would expect superheroes to be. In this world, people with superpowers who are called epics are actually evil, and our main character, David, lives in a city that is run by an epic named Steelheart, who is one of the most powerful epics. And David teams up with this group of people called the Reckoners, who are essentially trying to fight back against the epics. I think I'm going to do a full trilogy review once I have finished this trilogy, so I'm not going to go too in-depth into my feelings about this one, but overall I thought it was a really interesting book. I love Brandon Sanderson's writing so much, and I think that he has the ability to create such interesting magic systems and worlds, and I feel like he did a really great job with this trilogy. And I gave this first book in the trilogy 9 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. So the next 4 books that I read in the month of May I'm going to talk about in one fell swoop because they are all from the Scott Pilgrim graphic novel series. I read volumes 3, 4, 5, and 6. I haven't yet decided if I'm going to do a full series review for this because I'm not sure I have enough things to say about the series to merit a full review. So I'm going to run through these 4 volumes and what I rated them really quickly, and then I'm going to talk about my opinions on them. Volume 3 is Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness, which I gave 8 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. Volume 4 is Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together, which I gave 7 stars out of 10, which translates to 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. Volume 5 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the Universe, which I gave 7 stars out of 10, which translates to 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. And finally, Volume 6 is Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour, which I gave 8 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. Overall, I think the series is a lot of fun, and I did really enjoy reading it, but I don't think that I connected to it as deeply as I've connected to other series. And I'm not entirely sure whether this is due to the graphic novels themselves or due to the rate that I actually read this series. Because I read all 4 of these on the drive back from school to home, and therefore I read all 4 of these in the span of about 2 days, so I kind of just rapidly got through all 4 of these. So I'm not sure if that rapid reading rate is why I didn't connect so much to the series, or if it's just because of the way the series is written. I think the series' strong points are its characters and the humor that Brian Lee O'Malley brings to the series. Because I think that these graphic novels are just a lot of fun, and the characters are all really witty and funny. But I think that my least favorite aspect of the series is the plot. Not that I didn't enjoy the plot of the series, but I don't think that it lived up to the wit and humor in the characters. My favorite volume is still the first one, which I gave 8.5 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, so that means that I've given half of the volumes 4 out of 5 on Goodreads and half of them 3 out of 5. I first saw the movie based off the series Scott Pilgrim vs. the World in either my junior or senior year of high school, but it had been long enough since I'd seen it that I didn't really remember anything that happened, so I don't think that affected my reading experience anyway, but I do think that I kind of prefer the movie to the series. Because when I watched it again after finishing the series, I thoroughly enjoyed it a little bit more than I actually enjoyed reading the series. Maybe all I need is a reread to thoroughly love the series, but on this first read, I really enjoyed it, and if I had to rate the series out of 5, I would probably give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a really fun series with a lot of wit, but I don't think it's going to be showing up very high on any of my favorite series lists. The next book that I read in the month of May was Firefight by Brandon Sanderson, which is the second book in the Reckoners trilogy. I talked about this book in my last video, which was books that I couldn't put down, because I had a really interesting experience while reading this. Essentially, I got to about 30% of the way through, and even though I was really enjoying it, I didn't really have any motivation to keep on reading, and I set it down for several days, and it got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I need to pick it up, get to like 50% of the way through, and then I can take another break. And then I got to 50% through, and I was like, you know what, I'm really enjoying this, let's keep going, and I saw that part 4 started at 79%, and I was like, sure, 29 more percent, let's go. And then I got to 79% and I still couldn't put it down, so I was like, do you know what, let's just read the rest of the book. So essentially I read the last 70% of the book in a single sitting because I was just really enjoying it and couldn't put it down. I ended up giving Firefight 9 stars out of 10, which translates to 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, which is the same rating that I got Steelheart, but I actually would say that I enjoyed this one a little bit more than I enjoyed Steelheart. And I think what it is that I enjoy these two books for very different reasons, and I'm not going to go into those reasons for spoilers, but I think that I preferred this one, but I still love Steelheart. Also, I don't really know why, and I don't have much of an explanation for it, but while I was reading this, I think I got a little bit of like Pendragon vibes. If anyone has read both this book and the Pendragon series, or just a few books from the Pendragon series, let me know if you also got that vibe from this book, because for some reason I found myself reading this and thinking about the Pendragon series a lot. I mean, I guess there are some significant comparisons that could be made between this book and the second book in the Pendragon series, but I don't know, it was just, there were some vibes going on that really just made me think of the Pendragon series for some reason. And I think part of it could be that one of the really important characters in this book is very similar to a couple of the really important characters in the Pendragon series, so maybe that's why I was getting those vibes, but either way, I just found a lot of comparisons between the two. But overall, I really enjoyed Firefight, 9 stars out of 10, 4 out of 5. I would have continued on in the series already, but I'm still waiting on my copy of Calamity that I ordered to get here. I ordered it like 2 weeks ago from the book depository, and it has yet to show its little face on my doorstep, so I don't know. I'm really hoping that I get it either today or tomorrow, because I'm about to leave to go look at apartments at my new university, and I would really like to take it on the trip with me. And then the last and best thing that I read in the month of May was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is of course a reread for me. I first read it back in August of 2014 and absolutely loved it, and this time was no different. In fact, I think I fell even more in love with this book on the second read. It's just so good. I gave it 10 stars out of 10 the first time, and I'm once again giving it 10 stars out of 10. This is just a really, really interesting book. I love the intricate world build. I think that the Oasis is really interesting. I love everything about this book. And I actually reread this upon the discovery that the movie has been pushed back another year, and I just cannot deal with that. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna read the book again. It's so good. If you have not read Ready Player One and you are a fan of the 80s or a fan of video games or just of geek culture in general, read this. Please do yourself a favor and read this book because it is a masterpiece. So those are the books that I completed in the month of May, but I am currently in the middle of another book, so I wanted to talk very briefly about the book that I'm currently reading. And that is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. Currently, I'm about 125 pages into this, so I'm about like a sixth of the way through, but I would just like to note that this is the 7th Brandon Sanderson book that I have read since picking up The Final Empire a little bit less than a year ago. And this is the fastest that I have ever gotten hooked onto an author other than J.K. Rowling. I actually count this with a little bit more weight than I do with the J.K. Rowling one, because all of J.K. Rowling's books that I've read are within the Harry Potter series, whereas I've started 4 distinct works from Brandon Sanderson, those being the Mistborn trilogy and the Rithmetis series, now Warbreaker, and of course the Reckoners trilogy, which I've talked about already in this video. Overall, I've just fallen completely in love with Brandon Sanderson's writing and his world building and his magic systems. Just He is awesome, and you will definitely be seeing more of his books in my wrap-ups in the next month or so. So that is it for my May wrap-up. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I talked about today and what you thought of them. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!